Hi there.
Hi.
This is Laurie Wickens of Shag Harbour. We met, I don't know, in 2017, but you are one of the key witnesses to the Shag Harbour event. And you were 17 years old at the time, back in October 4th, 1967. Yeah. So can you tell what you experienced that night?
We was coming from Barrington, me and a friend of mine, while we was out that night. He'd just bought a car that day and he never had no license, so he wanted me to drive him around. Other than that, we'd have been home. We happened to be in Barrington and parked in where there used to be a store, and these three girls that we went to school with come up and said, asked us if we'd give them a ride home. And I think they'd been to the show, I'm not sure. So on the way home, as we was going up through Shag Harbour, we noticed four lights to the north of us, off to the right, and we just see them. It was going on and on. We just figured it was an airplane, and it was going along with us. And after we went by the school and started going up the hill, the lights went from going level to going down at a 45-degree angle. We lost sight of the lights for about 2 seconds, made it to the top of the hill, and we see a light in the water, which we knew didn't belong there, so we went to the phone booth and called the RCMP, and I said, we just see a plane crash, and he said, what, you been drinking? He didn't believe me, and I said, nothing. He got the number for the phone booth, and I went to walk to the car to get in and to leave, and he called back, and he wanted to know where it was, so I said, meet us at the Moss plant. And I know why he called back so quick. An RCMP officer on duty was the second guy to call in and report a plane crash. There was 12 calls that night, and everybody called in and reported a plane crash. So I told him to meet us at the Moss plant, and I went back down there. We see the light drifting in the water, and we hadn't been there a minute or so, and 3 or 4 other cars come, then the Mounties come, and then more cars, and there must have been 50 of us there watching the light drift down by about 300 yards from shore. Then some of the people that had seen it left and went to go out with fishing boats to look for survivors or wreckage or whatever. And me and the cops stayed there. The head guy went back to the police station to find out what any planes missing or anything. And we watched the light drift down by till the light just went out. And after that, me and him went down and got on the Coast Guard boat when it come from Shag Harbour. It come up to Shag Harbour and picked us up, and we went out on that. And we never found nothing that night.
How long were you on the boat for? How long did they search?
Probably for a couple hours that night.
Yeah. But other people saw a yellow foam in other boats or something?
The fishing boats that first went out there, they claimed there was a patch of yellow foam about 300 yards long and about 100 yards through it, and a foot or more thick, deep on the water. Normie tried to dip it up, and it just run out through the dip net, and nobody never took a sample of it.
That's too bad. Now, when did you first find out that the word UFO, you didn't even know what that word meant?
No, we hadn't even heard tell of that word back then.
No TV or anything,
no.
Right? Yeah.
Saturday afternoon, Mountie asked me if I knew what I seen. I said no. He said they called it a UFO. So I asked him what was that. So then he explained what it was. So
yeah, and so one woman, a lighthouse keeper's wife, actually was knitting, and you know that story, right?
Yes, she actually see it go in the water, and she woke her husband up. He went and woke up the head light keeper, and they called to find out if there was any planes or anything missing. And nothing was missing, so they didn't believe her and made fun of her and everything. And then finally, they see boats out there, so they knew something had happened. So they see the Coast Guard and the fishing boats out. They could tell they were running around looking at stuff.
Just for the person who's not familiar with this story, how long did they search for something, and what did they do to search?
Well, the Navy divers showed up here Friday, and we went out on the Coast Guard to show them where it was at. And before we got there, they stopped, and the divers went overboard, and I said, I was getting ready to go overboard, and I said, this ain't where we see it there. I said, you're wasting time here. And the captain was adamant with putting them overboard here. They was down about half an hour, and they come up and went back in. Never found nothing, and I never talked to nobody again.
And but there was a situation where about a week later, someone saw something come out of the water, right?
A week later to the day, the Cameron's house that went over that night when they went in the water claimed they see two craft come out of the ocean and go out over the Bay of Fundy or go out over that Gulf of Maine.
That's amazing. And
they called in and reported two craft coming out of the water to the RCMP.
yeah. And so, what was the Navy's official story on this?
Well, the government's official story is something come down and we officially searched for it, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah, unidentified.
Unidentified. The Navy says nothing was found. But if you watch when the CBC was there filming them and they brought something, the Navy brought something up, the divers did, and they said it's one thing, but you can tell by looking at it that ain't what it was. That's on one of the, if you go on YouTube or on that, you can find it if you're watching that one.
And what's the story about the lightkeeper said he searched the area, he didn't see anything, but then he later said that he actually found something? Do you know that story?
Yeah, the government called him and asked him to check the shore the next morning, and he actually found something. And it was brought off the island and turned over to the American government, not the Canadian.
How do you feel about that?
Well, it should never been.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that he didn't do nothing wrong. His boss just told him who to give it to when he brought it off the island. So I guess it was American, somebody in the American Navy was in a big white uniform anyhow.
Yeah. So here we are, like 50 some odd years later.
56, I guess.
56 years later. And what do you think after all these years, when you look back on it, what do you think about the whole situation? How do you feel it fits in the world of UFO encounters?
I got no idea what it was. All I know, we definitely see something. So
yeah. And has this
whatever it was, the government definitely knows what it was. You got two choices: either American or a Russian military plane in development stage, or something from outer space.
Yeah.
And what did they have back then? They could fly 50 miles an hour or slower.
Right, which is not an easy task.
So where did it come from?
Right. Well, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and meeting you again.
Yeah.